Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 22 playthrough of the New York Yankees. We are at the start of the 2033 baseball season. We have made a couple of big trades and a few big free agent acquisitions during the offseason, while also trading away some players and losing some key free agents, but feeling cautiously optimistic about the season as we're ready to get underway. Going to be an interesting season. We are in the last year of our contract, but we have been in the last year of our contract for several years in a row now, and they keep bringing us back. The team focus is absolutely to win now. That is our expectation. Ownership wants us to reach the playoffs. They wanted us to upgrade catcher. We brought on Drew Romo. They want us to improve stolen bases, not really focusing on that, but we did bring on a new center fielder with some speed who could help there. And then they also want us to make $25 million in profit this year, which we're not going to do right now, but if we have a long postseason run, that could certainly help. The issue with long postseason runs is that although this Yankees team has now been in the playoffs for 9 consecutive seasons, for each of the last 4 years, we finished second in the AL East, and each of the last 4 years, we got bounced in the one-game wild card. So the goal is to get back on top of the American League East and hopefully have a long run in the playoffs as we try to win a championship and keep a job despite an ownership group that is upset with us for not typically following their goals to cut spending. And we have simmed ahead to May, and the Yankees season is going fantastic right now, in first place in the American League East by 6 games. We have gotten back from injury over the last couple of weeks, both Nick Gonzalez and Bo Bichette. So we are almost at full strength. We did lose Octavio Becerra to the injured list with 3 months of shoulder inflammation a couple of weeks ago. But other than that, we are pretty much running with the lineup that we would like to be running with. So hopefully we can continue to win some games over the next month or so. In some disappointing news, the rookie third baseman Victor Mejias, who had actually taken over at the spot for Tristan Casas and was having an absolutely great year, raking at a .375 rate after hitting .321 in a late season call-up last year, now out with a partially torn labrum for 3 months. So obviously not great to lose the youngster, but hopefully he will be back well in time for the playoffs. So we are going to send Mejias to the injured list and then head down to Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Do have some options there now. Probably will bring Kevin Blunt back up, who was with us at the start of the season, while both Bichette and Gonzalez were on the injured list. So hopefully that can he'll perform well enough to keep us moving in the right direction. Slowed down, I guess. Actually, we really haven't slowed down. Our lead is down to 4.5 games, but we're still 6-4 over our last 10. It's just Baltimore has been playing a bit better recently as well. And as this season moves along, we're also going to be needing to figure out what to do with a few of our older players. Brian Reynolds is looking for an extension. 38 years old, going to be 39 by the start of next season. He's physically wrecked at this point. Still producing incredibly so far this year with a 203 OPS plus. Obviously unlikely that he's going to continue producing at that rate. As good as he is in the clubhouse and as good a player as he is, as we've talked about, we did sign Mike Grimes, who has taken over as our starting center fielder. So the reason to keep Reynolds, who for a while had been our only competent center fielder, is down. And he's also looking for, over $22 million, about $22.5 million a year for the next 3 years. So for a 39-year-old, that seems high with us, seems high to us. Not going to rule out bringing him back, but certainly not the main thing that we're going to focus on now. Also going to have another big decision with Shiku Shu, who has had just a brilliant career since he joined us from Taiwan. He can see, won an MVP award in his 3rd season, 2027, perennial All-Star, Silver Slugger. champion when we won the title in 26, several Silver Slugger awards. Has been an absolutely fantastic player for us. He's going to be turning 35 next year. He is durable, though, as opposed to wrecked like Reynolds, so a lot better chance that we would want to bring Shu back. And he's actually looking for the same kind of money that Reynolds is. So I think, and that'll be down from the $30 million that he's making this year. So he's being a lot more reasonable. Doesn't mean that we're not going to try to get him for even less than he's looking for. But we're willing to extend him for 4 years if we have a team option on that final year. And if we can not include a no-trade clause. So this is going to be significantly less. He was looking for $90 million over 4 years with a no-trade. We right now are offering him $80 million over 4 years with no trade and a team option on the final season as insurance for us. Let's see what he thinks of that. If we give him the no trade, he's more interested. Let's see if money can offset that. If we give him another $1 million a year, $21 million a year, and then we'll make that final year $23 million, but we're going to go back to the team option. He'll be getting more money and a bigger buyout if it goes through. Seems like he's really focused on the no trade clause. So I'm not sure that this is going to work, but let's see. He really wants that no trade clause. I tell you what, if he is willing to keep in the team option in the final year, then we will include that no trade clause that he is so interested in. Let's see what do you think about that, Shikushu? Well, we'll come back to negotiations with him. Although I am a little worried that his price is only going to go up. I like the amount he's looking for. I may be trying to get too cute here. So let's give him the $22 million he wants for each of the 4 years. We'll give him the no trade clause, but we still want the option to get out of this when he's going to be 38 years old. The owner does not approve the deal now. Why were? Oh, I guess it must just be a tad expensive enough that we can't do that. Let's see. All right. Well, we're not making much progress here. He's still reasonably pleased with us, but we're going to push the negotiation off a month or so before getting wrapped up in that. And then Bo Bichette has a player option next year. Would be $30 million if he wants to stick with us. But you can see the top 3 salaries on our team are all potentially coming off next season, which will open up a lot of space if it's a good free agent class next year. Yeah, looking at next season, we only have about $21.2 million available for extensions right now, so that was why we were running into issues with some of the offers to Shikushu. So let's try to structure things a little differently. I would just like to, I want to get this contract done. He is a cornerstone of the Yankees, a fan favorite, has been a great player. We're only going to be able to bring back either him or Brian Reynolds. Shikushu is certainly the player that we want to bring back. So we are now offering him more money than we've ever offered him before. $90 million over 4 years. We've given him the no trade clause. The only thing we're going against him with is we're a little lower. He's looking for $90.4 million, and we're including the team option for that final season of his. He is insistent on what he wants. This very difficult negotiator. So I guess at this point, he's made it clear that he won't go for that team option. So we're going to offer him a little bit less money, give him the no trade clause, and he's going to finally think about it. 4 years, $88 million. So definitely he played hardball with us, but the fact that We're going to be signing him for about $8 million less than he's been getting paid most recently. Makes us feel a little bit better about bringing on a 35-year-old, but still a very productive player for us. So hopefully we can get that contract wrapped up, and the Yankees can continue winning some ball games. And the good news is that we have gotten Shiku Shu signed to that 4-year extension. Bad news is that Christian Javier out with a torn rotator cuff for 5 to 6 months. So very unlikely that Javier will be able to join us for the playoffs. If we get to the playoffs, still making $22 million a year, and he's going to be making $22 million next year too. He's fragile at this point, so definitely not an optimal situation, but we will head down to the farm and do the best to bring up someone who can hopefully give us some good innings at the major league level. We decided to bring up Andy Kirkland from the minors. 25-year-old, has been in our system for quite some time, was a 4th-round pick of ours back in 2028. Has never pitched at the major league level. You can see he's now in his 4th year in Scranton. He has pitched well there over time, although this year he's gotten roughed up a little bit. But finally, after a long wait on his end, Kirkland will get some major league action. And moving Javier to the injured list has allowed Euricio Castillo, the youngster who's been pretty solid for us ever since he came up, to get back into the rotation after spending most of this season as a reliever. You can see with 184 innings in 2031 and 196 innings in 2032, he's been a consistent and good starter for us over the years. So we do have a little bit of redundancy in the starting rotation at this point. Well, another injury for the Yankees, the catcher Drew Romo that we traded for last year, going to be out with knee tendonitis for about 3 weeks. Has been having a pretty impressive first season for us here in New York, batting .283, OPS plus of 125. You can see he's also got great catcher ability and is a captain for us. So definitely will be a loss to have Romo on the injured list for a few weeks, but we'll be fine if we get him back for the playoffs. Anthony Siegler has been our starter off and on over the course of the last several seasons, so very confident that he can contribute to us. And we will bring the veteran Carter Binns most likely up from Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Other option would be Mitch Stahl. He's only hitting .219 there. I think Binns is the veteran, is a little bit better choice right now and a little bit better defensively. So we will bring Carter Binns up to the roster to fill in as our backup while we are without Romo. And we've made it to the end of May, as we've talked about in the last few minutes. Have had some injuries here and there, but 7.5 games up on Baltimore, a 35-13 record, which is easily the best in baseball right now. So everything is coming together really good for the Yankees right now. The youngster Montoya is leading the league in hitting at this point. Brian Reynolds 3rd in batting average. Shiku Shu and Reynolds 2, 3 in RBIs for the player we are bringing back and the player we may not be able to bring back. Reynolds 3rd in OPS. Montoya 1st in batter WAR. Bobby Chapa, the pitcher we traded for, 3rd in the league in wins, 2nd in strikeouts. So been a can't say a perfect season, but it's been a really good start to the 2033 season for the Yankees, who are trying to win the AL East after being second 4 years in a row at this point. The injuries starting to add up a little bit. Daniel Salas just went on the IL with a strained back, joining Javier and Becerra among pitchers. Javier out for the year. Becerra should be back in a couple months, and still waiting on Drew Romo and Victor Mejias to recover from their injuries also. That said, we are still chugging along in first place by 8.5 games now, so the main thing is to be healthy and well as much as possible when we get to October. Well, we made it to the midway point of the season. Brian Reynolds, as he often is on the injured list, getting a little rest. Not a huge problem there, is that it does allow us to give a little extra playing time at a designated hitter to the young outfielder on our team, Gabe Cologne. He hasn't played too much this year, and he's hitting .314 in that limited time, so always like to be able to find him more at-bats. So don't mind that Reynolds is on the IL for us now. Looking at our mid-season goals, you can see our winning percentage still over 700. We're in first place. Ownership is pleased with that. They are pleased with the upgrade on Drew Romo, although they don't think it's as big as they wanted. We have improved in fifth to stolen bases. That is probably largely because of the addition of Mike Grimes, not something that we intentionally did. And we have attendance higher, but we're not making as much money as ownership wants. That said, they're still satisfied with our progress towards the goals. But if things don't start picking up, we may have to make some changes. So once again, a mixed message from ownership. And I have a couple of contracts to think about with our third base coach, Samuel Denudo, and then Holbert down in Scranton Wilkes-Barre as our manager. So we will think about those, but right now we are going to be getting ready for the amateur draft in just a few days. We're up 9 games on Baltimore in the American League East, and still have by far the best record in baseball. So has been a really good year for the Yankees so far. Well, we're getting near the end of July. The Yankees still playing very well. You can see still in first place in the American League, American League East, up by 8 games on Baltimore. But a major injury. Mike Grimes just suffered a torn ACL, out for 9 months. So the center fielder's season is over with us. Had a pretty good year for us in his first year with the Yankees. 12 homers and 49 runs batted in just over half a season. 127 OPS plus, and he's a pretty good defensive center fielder. So that's going to be a big loss for us. Especially with Reynolds still on the injured list with that sprained knee. The good part of that is that Gabe Cologne is going to be getting a lot more playing time, and he is raking, hitting .329 with a 154 OPS plus. So very pleased that that should open up some more time for Gabe Cologne in the lineup. And then we're going to bring up the center fielder Eric Cares from Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Has not hit all that much this year in his first full season at AAA. OPS plus of 96, but a pretty solid defensive center fielder. So hopefully he can give us some ability to play good defense out there as a defensive substitute for us in the late innings of games. And we've got 10 days until the trade deadline. So with the fact that we are clearly all in on this season, we could see ourselves doing something there also. We've got about $9.7 million in money available, so we could certainly take on a contract from somebody in the coming weeks. Well, we're at the trade deadline, or almost there, a day away, and I know this sounds weird, but we may be standing pat. We're going to get Luis Ortiz and Victor Mejias, hopefully both back within the next week and a half. And then after that, Grimes is obviously out for the year, and Javier, it's hard to imagine he'll be back in time, even if we make a long run in the playoffs. So we're relatively healthy right now, except for those 2 big injuries, which we just have to move on from. Looking at who's available on the trade wire, there's people out there. Jake Cronenworth, who used to be on our team, is still a good second baseman at the age of 39. Glenn Allen Hill Jr. is a pretty good hitting third baseman, but we just don't need a ton of help in the infield right now. And looking at the pitching staff, we could go after Lucas Giolito, the 39-year-old. Still has solid stuff, movement and control, 3 pitches, great stamina, but having a rough year with a 5.47 ERA. I believe he's in the last year of a $20 million contract. We could bring him on just as an insurance policy, really, as another arm if we have some injuries. But I think we view him as more of a fourth or fifth starter than anything at this point for our team at this point in his career, and he's fragile health-wise. If the Phillies are willing to kind of give him away for almost nothing, maybe we bring him on. But they're still looking for a pretty talented player or a player with some upside from us. Just don't think that it's worth it. So I think unless we have an injury over the next day, we are probably just going to stand pat and run with who brung us the rest of this regular season. As the month of July is, nearing an end. Still up on Baltimore by 9 games in the AL East. Best record in the American League. Just barely the best record in baseball, ahead of the Marlins. Looks like we're about 2 games better than them. So it's been a really good year for the Yankees. Let's hope we can keep it going, and we don't have some big injury that happens in the first week of August right after we get past the trade deadline. Well, we are about a month from the end of the regular season. We're to September 1st. Roster expansion is upon us, and we are still 8 games up for the American League East. Best record in baseball by just a game at this point over the Marlins. But the Yankees looking to make their 10th consecutive playoff appearance and looking to win the American League East, hopefully for the first time in 5 years, and avoid that one-game wild card playoff in which we are 0-4 over the past 4 seasons. Health-wise, we're in pretty good shape. Hopefully bringing up a couple of additional people will help us here. But at this point, the only people on the injured list are Christian Javier and Mike Grimes, and we know Grimes is gone for until the beginning of next year. Javier still holding out some tiny amount of hope. Maybe he'd be able to help us in the playoffs, but if he's going to be able to, we're going to have to make it to the World Series, because he's certainly not going to be back until late October at the earliest, and it's hard to imagine we'd have him in shape to be starting games for us. But who knows? Could he be a potential arm for us out of relief if everything goes well? We'd certainly like to have him on the roster if we can, but pretty unlikely that he's going to make it back from the injury. And the roster expansion will allow us to bring a couple of players who have played pretty well for us up at the major league level so far. We'll bring back a 14th arm, Andy Kirkland, the 25-year-old, who has a 3.22 ERA in 22 1/3 innings for the Yankees in his first major league action. And then we're also going to bring in back Kevin Blunt, who hit pretty well, 11 homers and 41 ribbies with a 272 average across 195 at-bats while he's been up helping the Yankees with injuries this year. So good to have both of those players in their mid-20s back onto the roster as we try to keep everyone healthy and prepare for the playoffs. And we've made it to September 17th, and now we do have a big injury that could really impact us down the stretch. Jose Montoya, the 27-year-old second baseman, third baseman, who is third in the AL in batter WAR this year, out with a fractured hand for 4 to 5 weeks, so his regular season is certainly over. Obviously, the hope is that we get him back for the playoffs. Just a brilliant season for the... He's not really a youngster anymore. He's a major league veteran at 27 years old. Very good defensive player. Batted over 300 for us this year with 25 homers and 84 ribbies, a 131 OPS plus, and as I mentioned, that 6.9 WAR. So definitely very disappointing to lose him at this late stage of the season. You can see we are up 8 games on the Orioles. We've already clinched a playoff spot, getting close to clinching the division. Montoya won't be around to help us do that, but hopefully he will be able to join us and play again this season, because if he's able to play again this season, it probably means that we made it to the ALCS. All right, we're now in late September. The Yankees just won our 100th game of the year, first team in majors to get there. Still have a magic number of 4. Haven't quite clinched the American League East, but will be very nice when we do to not have to play in that playoff, which has been a huge problem for us over the past several years. A little banged up still at this point, but nothing new that's going to linger, hopefully. Put on Mejias just to be careful. he's already recovered from an injury, as you can see, but has 3 days left on the IL. Just didn't want to mess around with the young third baseman, especially that he could be having a more significant role come playoff time, with Montoya also out for another 3 weeks. And we're now into October. You can see we've got a little over a week left in the season. Just lost the first game of a 3-game series to Baltimore. They are still lingering around. Our magic number is down to 2, so we're going to hopefully get past them, beat 3-1. So yes, we have now clinched the American League East. Now the only thing left to do is to hopefully clinch home field advantage throughout the playoffs. The Twins are about 5.5 games behind us now, so with only 7 games to go, hopefully we will wrap that up in the next week or so, and hopefully have, crossing our fingers, no more injuries over this last week of the season. Just want to get into the playoffs healthy and strong and ready to hopefully make a run. Well, the 2033 regular season is over, and as you can see, with a .654 winning percentage, it was the best season the Yankees have had in the last decade under our leadership. So really pleased with the results of the year. Won the American League East by 8 games with a 106-56 record. Also have the best record in baseball by 2 games over the Marlins. So after losing 4 consecutive AL wildcard games, we will avoid the wildcard round, and we will have home field advantage as long as we are alive in the playoffs. So that is very positive. We'll see what happens between the 95-win Astros and the 98-win Orioles in that AL wildcard game in a couple of days. Before then, we're just going to take a quick look at the leaderboard. Bo Bichette batted .325 this year, 3rd in the AL. You may remember he has a player option for $30 million next season. Going to be interesting to see what he decides. He's fragile at this point, played only 121 games, and you can see over the last 4 years, the most games he's played is 142, so he is definitely older and definitely somewhat injury prone, but be interesting to see whether he can get more than $30 million on the free market. So we'll see what happens there. Batter WAR, Bichette ended up 3rd in the league at 7.2. Shiku Shu, who we signed to that nice extension, you can see 30 homers, 108 runs batted in, and a .287 batting average. Also had the longest batting streak in the AL at 22 games. And then the pitching was excellent. Bobby Chappa, who we traded for in the offseason, led the league in ERA, and Tyler Neighbors, who we picked up at the trade deadline back in 2032 and then extended 2nd in the league in ERA. Euricio Castillo and Tyler Neighbors tied for the league lead with 16 wins. Bobby Chappa 2nd in strikeouts. Bobby Chappa 2nd in pitcher WAR. And then our closer, Tim Wallace, was 3rd in the league with 41 saves, a career high for him. So it was an excellent regular season for the Yankees, back on top in the American League East for the first time in 5 years, and it will be our 10th consecutive playoff appearance. But as we have talked about, unless we win it all, it really doesn't matter. So a lot of pressure on this team as we get ready for the playoffs. Looking at the injury situation, Javier still 2 weeks away, so I guess if we get to a World Series, there is a chance he could be pitching for us. He is coming off of that torn rotator cuff, so not exactly sure how ready he will be. Mike Grimes, obviously out for another 6 months, is totally gone. And then Jose Montoya will likely miss the ALDS with that fractured hand, out for another week. But hopefully he will be able to join the team if we make it to the ALCS. Eric Cares, who came up when Grimes went down with that injury, took over for us in center field and didn't do too much with the bat. You can see he only hit .202 for us with a 54 OPS plus and a -1 WAR. He's a solid defensive player, but obviously has not hit enough to make having him up worthwhile for the former number one draft choice for us. Just looking at another young player, Gabe Cologne. We're hoping to get him more playing time this year at 22 years. When he did play, he was brilliant. Batted .340 for us with a 156 OPS plus. With the fact that we will not be bringing back Brian Reynolds next year at the age of 39, that will give Cologne an opportunity to slide right into the starting lineup and hopefully get even more PT next year. But he is still a player that we are very optimistic about and looking forward to seeing what he can do for us in the playoffs this year. And we will go into those playoffs in our next episode. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and looking forward to coming back with our next episode when we will avoid that blasted AL wildcard game for the first time in several years. Thanks so much for watching.